Ready? All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Fourth Dimension group of Alcoholics Anonymous. My name is Dawn, and I'm an alcoholic. Let us open the meeting with a moment of silence, followed by the Serenity Prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Singleness of purpose. This is an open meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. We are glad you're all here, especially newcomers. In keeping with our singleness of purpose and our third tradition, which states that the only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking, we ask that all who participate confine their discussion to their problems with alcohol. Is there anyone present who is at their first meeting or in their first 30 days of sobriety? If so, please introduce yourself. We ask this not to embarrass you, but so that we may get to know you better.
My name's Ryan.
Ryan? Welcome, Ryan. Hi, Ryan. Anybody else? We've got a lot of empty seats up front, if you guys in the back want to take them. Is there anyone here from out of town? Nobody. Yes, ma'am.
I'm from Connecticut.
Okay, what's your name? All right, now Susan will read the preamble.
I'm an alcoholic. My name is Susan. This is our preamble. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution. It does not wish to engage in any controversy. Neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. Thank you.
Thank you. And Eric will read the steps.
Go clap, please. Thanks, Sean. Hello, everybody. I'm an alcoholic. My name's Eric. Here are the steps we took which are suggested as a program of recovery. 1, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6, we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. 7, humbly asked Him to remove our shortcomings. 8, made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. 9, made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so but injure them or others. 10, continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. And 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. And 12, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs.
Thanks, Eric. If you could please silence your cell phones at this time. Also, we ask that if you could please refrain from getting up and down during the speakers, but if you must, please do so quietly. If you're going to smoke, we ask you to please be away from any buildings. Please be respectful as we are guests of the church. Also, if you have any announcements in between speakers, please see the group secretary. Group secretary, please raise your hand. All right, at this time I'd like to introduce the first speaker. This is Natalie W.
Hi, I'm Natalie, alcoholic. Hey, Natalie. It's really good to be here, and I'm glad to be with all of you guys tonight. It's funny, I wasn't really expecting to be speaking tonight. I was at work earlier. I was having a really rough day, just one of those days where everything is just going wrong. Like, my manager hates me, all my customers at work hate me, and I'm not getting tipped by everybody, and the whole world's against me. And I finally talked to my manager. I'm like, I just need like 5 minutes. Just let me have 5 minutes, and me smoke a cigarette, and just breathe for a minute. Let me gain my composure. He's like, okay, just go. So I'm outside, and I'm like returning some phone calls, people that called me throughout the day, and a good friend of mine was like, hey, how you doing? I'm like, I'm pretty good, you know, not having too good of a day, but it's all good. You're speaking tonight. I'm like, awesome. So, anyway, my day's just gotten a little better from there, but anyway, I'm just really grateful to be here tonight. My sobriety date's August 3rd, 2011, and I'm 20 years old, and I'm a youngin', so I came into the program just after I turned 19, about 2 weeks after I turned 19, and never been really, never was around AA. You know, I'd never really heard of it, and until I woke up from the blackout in the back of my mom's car, and she said, we're on our way to detox. And I was like, my life is over. And I really did. I thought my life was over. I didn't want to, you know, I didn't want to go into treatment. I didn't want to be in the program. I thought AA was for those people who were, you know, living under a bridge. And I didn't just want to be, like, alone in AA for the rest of my life. I didn't really even know what AA was. And but I didn't want to be there, wherever it was. Because when I was a kid, you know, alcohol was, you know, in my family. My mom drank, and, you know, that was her thing. And one thing that stuck out to me in my childhood is what my mom always says was the bottle that she kept in the freezer. That was her happy drink, and it helped her be happy, and it helped her cut loose. And first time I drank, I was 12, and that's exactly what it did. I was happy, I could cut loose, and I was, you know, nothing really bothered me. And after that first taste of alcohol, that's what I chased. Like many of you can probably relate to, you know, that's what I chased, like my entire drinking career, you know. I felt a part of. I didn't feel lonely. I didn't feel awkward. I could fit into situations I didn't think that I could fit in otherwise. And that feeling of like being whole, I felt that when I was, you know, drinking. And I never really felt that otherwise. I didn't feel that at school. I didn't feel that with my family. I didn't feel like I fit. There was always that piece that was just missing. And alcohol numbed that. What alcohol didn't bring, or what alcohol brought that I didn't think that it would, is that it took away my family, it took away my friends, it took away my car, my job, self-respect, all that other stuff. And when I was 17, I reached the point where if you would have asked me where my life would have been when I was 20 or 21, my response to you would have been, I won't be alive at 20 or 21. Because that's the place that alcohol brought me. And I was content with that. I was very okay with, like, you know, I'm just going to be dead in a ditch somewhere by the time I'm 20. And that's just going to be all right. That's going to be it for me. And yeah, it's funny, but it's the truth. I didn't see life getting any better. And then I was introduced to this program, and I was able to see, like, you know, life can be okay. Like, I can be happy with me. And I don't have a drinking problem. I don't have a, like, you know, low self-esteem, like, self-hatred problem. I have a me problem, you know. And alcohol doesn't fix, like, what's inside of me. And it took coming into the program and, you know, connecting and relating to people who have the same issues that I do to find that sense of hope and to find that sense of wholeness. And I'll tell you that, you know, there's no amount of alcohol, and there's no, like, I don't know, the love and support that I found from this program tops any drunk that I've ever had in my life. And that's hope, and that's it right there. And I wasn't this gung-ho about it when I was first coming into the program. This is just an aftermath. But I came into the program, and I went through treatment, and I was, very stubborn, and, well, I'm still kind of stubborn. A lot stubborn. But I was very stubborn, and I didn't really, like I said, I didn't really want to be in the program. But, and I definitely, everyone knew that. Like, I really was not having this kind of thing. Like, the steps and the whole, like getting a sponsor and then this thing called, like, working the steps. I really wasn't feeling that. I'd read the steps over and be like, yeah, sounds like a good idea. That could probably be helpful, but not going to do it. I'll get a sponsor. Well, no, I won't. I'll say I have a sponsor, so if people ask me, I can say I have one, and then they'll leave me alone. But that didn't work either, because I would do this thing where, I would say I have a sponsor and then do step 1, maybe 2, 3, or just 1 and 2, or maybe just 2 or maybe 3. And then I'd skip sponsors and then, drink. And then I'd wander back to AA and then 1, maybe 2, 3, skip sponsors, drink. And that was the pattern. And then, they say, when you go back out, your alcoholism doesn't go away. You pick up right where you stopped. And the last time I drank, it didn't take me drinking a month. It didn't take me drinking a week. It took one night. It took one night to go exactly back to everything that I had been when I was drinking. In one night, I hurt the people I never wanted to hurt again. I lost everything that I had gained, and I was right back to zero. And the funny thing is, not the funny thing, the amazing thing about this program is you guys welcomed me back with open arms, and you loved me when I didn't love myself, and you loved me till I loved myself. And there's no other place in the world that I've ever been that has been like that has been that. This program has given me a life, and this program has given me a family. And I haven't always done this program perfectly. I haven't. I'm not a saint, and I haven't seen too many saints walk through the door. If they've said they're a saint, they probably aren't here anymore, but in my opinion. But, I finally started taking suggestions. I came back with my head low and not too much hope, but I took suggestions for the first time. And I got a sponsor and actually utilized her. I worked the steps and actually worked them past like 3, maybe. And I did the 4th step even though I didn't want to, and all 4.5 hours of it. And, I worked the steps and I got through it, man. And thanks, wow, that's cool. I got a 2-minute warning. I worked the steps, and by the grace of God, I've been sober ever since. And that's where the power is, and that's where the hope is, and that's why it's listed in our steps, and that's why we have a big book. And I have a relationship with God today, and I have a relationship with my family today. I'm allowed to see my 15-year-old sister today, and she calls me on a daily basis to see how I'm doing and to tell her that she loves me. And I didn't have that a year and a half ago. I didn't have any of this a year and a half ago, And that's a miracle, and that's amazing. And I didn't think that it could work for me, and I thought maybe it could work for you, and you guys seem kind of happy on the outside, but I didn't think that it could work for me. And in finding AA and connecting with AA and being a part of this program, it led me to God. And in finding God, I found myself. So I'm not going to waste too much more of your time because I'm really excited to hear our next speaker, which is a dear friend of mine and someone who I respect and respects this program as well. So that's all I got. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, Natalie. Barb will now read the traditions.
Hi, my name is Barbara, and I am definitely an alcoholic. And these are our 12 traditions. 1, our common welfare should come first. Personal recovery depends upon AA unity. 2, for our group purpose, there is but one ultimate authority, a loving God, as He may express Himself in our group conscience. Our leaders are but trusted servants. They do not govern. 3, the only requirement for AA membership is a desire to stop drinking. 4, each group should be autonomous except in matters affecting other groups or AA as a whole. 5, each group has but one primary purpose, to carry its message to the alcoholic who still suffers. 6, the AA group ought never endorse, finance, or lend the AA name to any related facility or outside enterprise, lest problems of money, property, or prestige divert us from our primary purpose. 7, every AA group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. 8, Alcoholics Anonymous should remain forever non-professional, but our service centers may employ special workers. 9, AA as such ought never be organized, but we may create service boards or committees directly responsible to those they serve. 10, Alcoholics Anonymous has no opinion on outside issues. Hence, the AA name ought never be drawn into public controversy. 11, our public relations policy is based on attraction rather than promotion. We need always maintain personal anonymity at the level of press, radio, and films. 12, anonymity is the spiritual foundation of all our traditions, ever reminding us to place principles before personalities.
And Brad will do the chips.
Hi, I'm Brad. I'm an alcoholic. These chips we have are representing lanes of sobriety. And our first one's a surrender chip, or 1 day. And you can come pick up one of these and surrender. Find a sponsor here tonight and work the steps. Anybody want to surrender tonight? We have a surrender. How's Ryan, everybody? We have 1 month of sobriety. That was another Ryan. All right, we have 2 months. 2 months of sobriety. That was Trip and Andrew. 3 months. 3 months of sobriety. All right, 6 months. Everybody was 6 months. 9 months of sobriety. A year multiple. That was Bill with 4, and Ann has 3. Give yourself a hand and have now a drink.
All right, now I'd like to introduce our main speaker. This is Toby T. from Tampa.
Wow, it's a big crowd. My name's Toby Tedrow, and I'm a recovered alcoholic. It's my pleasure to be here tonight, and thank you so much for asking me to be up here. It always kind of makes me a little humbled to say, hey, somebody actually wants to hear my story. I don't know. It's a living, it's a different story. Everyone can hear me all right? All right, good. What? Hey, it's nice to see that I actually know a few people in the crowd. It's good to see some people I haven't seen in a while. This fellowship is amazing. I've been in many different areas of the state, and it's funny. I come across people I hadn't seen in years, and it's like one big happy family. It's the next day, it's been years, but it seems like I saw you yesterday. Maybe that's part of that common solution that we all have. My sobriety date's August 25th of 2005. I have a sponsor or sponsor people. They tell me I'm supposed to say that. I think it's more or less that they say, hey, are you in the program? I say, no, the program's in me. And it's kind of like when they talk about a computer. The computer mainframe does the work, but the program is running the computer. And that's the way I see it with me. I got finally that program inside of me to have a way of life which actually goes somewhere. Just a moment of silence. Oh, Heavenly Father, thank you for this glorious day, for allowing me to see the miracles that happen about me every day that I couldn't see before. You've opened my eyes. Lord, thank you for the wonderful friends I've made in this program and seeing their eyes light up when they found the glory of you. Lord, may my words always be your words, my actions be your actions. May I always do thy will. Amen. The book tells me I'm supposed to tell you what it was like, what happened, and what it's like now, and that's what I intend on doing. Today, I have something that I never really had before. And I've told people, they hear my story, and they ask me, wow, that's incredible. And I say, they said, don't you wish you could have changed it? Do you regret anything? And I look at them and honestly say, if I had to go through this, I had to go through this. If I had to experience what I experienced, if I had to do what I did, with all its shortcomings and everything else, in order to be the man I am today, to walk the life I live today, then I would do it in a heartbeat. It took me a while for me to get there. But that's where I'm at. I was born the son to a military officer and a German Jewish immigrant from World War II. They both were self-made. They were solid people. They believed in this nation and everything that went with it, and they had a strong foundation in education. My father retired. He became a professor at St. Leo College, a local small place here in Pasco County. My mother went back to school, became a psychologist, and then became an adjunct professor at that same college. Very strong emphasis in education in my household, my brother and I. My father was 44 when I was born, and my mom was 39. My brother was 5 years older than I. And by all means, I had a beautiful childhood. Everything I could ever want. Big house, dogs, loving parents. Life was grand, but something inside of me, I noticed at a very young age, just didn't fit right. I remember feeling uncomfortable as a child. I don't know whether it was because I started school so young at the age of 3 that at age of 5 they held me back a year, and whether that affected my self-esteem, I don't know. I don't know if it was when my mom left me at a daycare, which she'd never done before, and I felt those strange feelings of abandonment. Oh my God, they're never going to pick me up again. Whether that happened, I don't know. But I just remember the jovial times my parents had at Christmas parties and parties they had. My father was a winemaker, and my grandfather was an importer of wines from Germany. I told the stories. They had that merriment. And alcohol seemed to be something of festive. And I remember a friend of mine who lived down the street from when I was a child. I guess I was about 8 years old. His father owned a small little restaurant in Tampa. It was a steakhouse, you might say. It had 5 stars behind the name, and his father's name was Byrne. And he said, yeah, when I turned the age of 8, my dad celebrated with me, and he gave me a beer and a cigar. And I said, you know what? That's what I got to do. It's like stepping into manhood. And I don't know if I was 8 or 10 when I demanded this request. And I got that. My dad looked at me and said, "Are you sure you want to do that?" And he said, "Yeah, okay." And I drank that beer. I can still remember. It was a Miller Genuine Draft. Or no, High Life. It was the champagne of beers. That's right. And that big cigar, and I smoked it, and we went out to dinner that night in an Italian restaurant, and I don't remember eating because I was sick and green in the back seat of the car. But somehow I had arrived. I reached that age. Later, I remember being in elementary school or high school, and always trying to sneak my dad's homemade wine out to parties. And I remember the first time I was in a high school party, it was out off the woods somewhere on some remote lake, and I remember having my first 4 beers. And when the effect of that alcohol came across me, and all of a sudden, I was comfortable. I was funny. I could talk to girls. I could relax. And I think I started chasing that elusive feeling at that moment. Now, I wasn't a big drinker to say. I don't know whether I would be in high school or not. Everyone else was doing all sorts of other things. I remember a couple of times having alcohol at lunch while in high school. What, didn't everybody? I think it was 2-3 times a year. Then there were the parties on the weekends. Alcohol was always involved. There were other substances there, but I really didn't care for those. I liked the alcohol. I remember being very proud of the fact at the age of 15 I looked like I was 18 because I was the drinking age at the time, and I could get alcohol and the 18-year-olds couldn't. I remember being 18 and senior in high school at that time and saying, I can get alcohol for the rest of the guys. It was special. It was adulthood. It was something to be proud of at that time. Well, I also remember being a little bit younger of my friends, and I remember feeling that uncomfortableness and not feeling like I was the one who was in charge. I could fit in with anybody. I could hang out with the heads. I could hang out with the jocks. I could be at the top of the class, or I could be in the chess club. You know what I mean? Because I had found a way where I didn't have to be judged. I hated to lose. I didn't want to be conflicted, meaning I don't want people to argue with me. So I adopted the opinion of those people around me very easily. Hey, what do you think of this political idea? I don't know, what's your opinion? Well, this is what I think. I said, you know what, that's pretty good. I think that's great. And then go to the next time and turn the page and say, oh, I believe with you too. Nobody could argue with me if my opinion was yours. Pretty smart. But like I said, my friends were a little older with me, and when I became a senior in high school, they all graduated, and I remember I lost my whole opinion base at that time. And I think that's the first time I slipped into a little bit of a depression. I ended up going to college that following year, and it was the first time truly being away from home. And one of the first things I did was buy myself a whole load of friends by joining a fraternity. There was this small little Baptist college up in Georgia, and they had this wonderful thing called Wonderful Wednesdays. There was no classes on Wednesdays, so Tuesday became a Friday night. And Friday night became a Friday night, and Saturday night, and it was another opportunity to drink and have parties. And I took full advantage of that. Needless to say, at the end of my first year, I was out of that college and going to St. Leo. I was actually kind of happy because I knew people there. I had my own little house in Santa Ana. And, I knew all the professors because my parents were both professors there. And I felt at home, and I wasn't so lonely anymore. And at that time, I dabbled in some other things other than just alcohol, because those other things could allow me to drink more. And I was doing that when I got into St. Leo College, and when I was there, my dad said, you know what, you ought to be interested in going into the ROTC. I had gotten an ROTC scholarship up at the university up in Georgia, but I turned it down. So I got into the ROTC program, and one day we went on this little hike, and before we went, there was this young lady who was associated with the program or the ROTC program through friends, and she was standing outside saying, "Don't sign any names, or don't sing any camp songs that start, 'I state your name, do solemnly swear.'" And I thought that was a funny idea. And then she was kind of cute. Well, I eventually started dating this young woman, and she knew what I was doing. She says, "You know what, I don't think I like you too much when you're doing that. It kind of scares me." Meaning the drinking and the other things. And at that time, I had a choice. I could quit and go with this beautiful, long-haired young woman who's bright and funny and can cook better than my mother, actually. Or I can keep on going. And I said, at that time, you know what? I'm quitting. And I did, cold turkey. I had that opportunity. It hadn't gripped me that hard. And I found something else that filled me up. It was her. And I felt like I belonged, and I was in love. And eventually, after completing my degrees at St. Leo, I got into law school, and I got engaged to that young woman, and when I graduated law school, I got married. No drinking, no other things. Life was grand. We started out on a path. Well, 3 children later, a mortgage payment, my own practice, life started getting a little rough. I was a sole income, life was going on, and it was hitting me hard. And I said, you know what, I was only 19. I need why am I working so hard? Why am I not getting the relief? Why aren't I getting the appreciation I deserve? And I started to say, you know what, I'm going to do it. And I started going to the happy hours again. I started coming home later and later. I started feeling entitled to my time. I thought I saw my family withdrawing from me. I thought I saw them pushing me away as not the man they expected. I started gaining resentments. Deserving. Why aren't I as regarded as my father was? Well, practice. I had everything. I had money. I had prestige. I was well respected in the community. I had everything going on for me, but I wasn't satisfied with what I had. I always wanted something more. I felt alone in a crowd still. But the alcohol seemed to move that away. I started to feel again like I could be a part of something. Those happy hours were fun, darn it. I was funny again. I enjoyed life. Other things come along with alcohol and that feeling. Not only just with other substances, but with other people, other females, other things. But I never could quite catch that feeling of belonging again. I was starting to work later and later, sometimes never coming home. Life was spinning around me. And at some time, I'm not really sure when, liquor and things that helped me drink longer no longer became a luxury, but became a necessity. I can't remember exactly when that happened, but I remember the times waking up early in the morning and having to go out and find more. The times late at night going out to get the next drink in order to make it through the evening and making sure I had enough for the next day. I wasn't thinking about family. I wasn't thinking about my job. I wasn't thinking about my friends. I was only thinking about how I could feel better. The loneliness was incredible. The fear of failure and disappointment was overwhelming. Even though I seemed to have everything, it didn't matter. Well, somewhere in 2004, after having been gone for quite some time, I came clean with my wife. And I said, look, I got a problem. She asked, and I told her. That didn't stop me. I tried. The longest I could go was about 12 days, and then I decided I needed a reward. And I'd be out on the weekend because I could actually do it like a normal person. No. Many attempts and many failures. Many attempts and many failures. Finally, somewhere in, I think it was January, February of 2005, the other substances and the alcohol had destroyed my body so bad that I had to get stronger things. And that was either a curse or a blessing, I'm not really sure, because it took me out in approximately 2 months. I'd been gone for several days, and my wife had taken out a missing person report on me. I remember the many nights where my children would call and say, Daddy, where are you? And this is from I guess, she was 10. My oldest. And the self-loathing of having to tell her I'll be home sometime. I remember crouching under a table with other people around me in a suit that I'd worn for 2 days. And looking around, and everything seemed to be spinning in circles, and I looked at the people that were around me and said, you know what, I think they're trying to play me. They want something. They don't want me. They don't want me around. They just want something I got. And I remember listening in my own head saying, you know what, you're crazy. And I said, yeah, I know. Knowing I was insane. And then wondering to myself if I was ever going to recapture lucidity, whether I'd be sober or not. Had I damaged myself so badly? Well, that be on the lookout for that was put out by my wife, that resulted in a police officer pulling me over in the middle of a not too savory neighborhood on a commitment order, and I ended up in the back seat of that police car. And they had taken, I'm a diabetic, my pill medication, and put it on the back part of their trunk. And another officer came up, opened it up, and looked in it, and found a substance that I had been doing. And they said, well, we're not taking you straight to the crazy house. We're going to take you to jail first. And all I could think of was that was an illegal search and seizure. I I don't remember getting booked in. I remember sleeping under a plastic chair with my bologna sandwich and a carton of milk. I remember calling my wife and saying, "Hey, have you called the attorney?" She says, "Yeah, but he's got to get back to us." I said, "You arranging bail?" He said, "Yeah, he probably, we'll see what we can do." He said, "Well, did you tell him that we want to get divorced?" I said, "No." He says, "Well, maybe I do." Well, talk about insanity. I'm calling my wife for bail money and asking for a divorce at the same time. Then they put me in the lockdown, and they took my underwear and socks because I was a suicide risk. Talking about uncomfortable. And I was lucky. I thought, hey, man, I must have special privileges because they put me in a single room. It was in a pod, but, there was one bed, and then there was one that looked like a mummy sarcophagus. So good, I got the good bed. And then the door shuts. I don't know if any of you have actually heard that door. I'm sure there are quite a few who have. I'd always been on the other side as an attorney, coming in and looking. It looks like you got a nice arrangement here, and then I can leave. This time I was on the other side, and I sat there, and that door shut, clang. And I was by myself, and it was dark. There's a little window up at the top, maybe about 5 inches in Hillsborough County at Orient Road. Wearing my orange jumper. And I was alone. I called my brother earlier that day after talking to my wife, and he said, "Hey, Steve, can you help me out?" He says, "What do you need?" He said, "Oh, I'm in jail." He says, "Yeah, I know." I said, "Can you help me with bail money?" He says, "No, you're exactly where you need to be." I had no one else to call. I was alone. And I cried. And I cried like a baby. One of those gut crying, with the thing in your face dripping down. And I did that foxhole prayer. God, help me out of this. Little did I know He had. He put me right where I needed to be. Next morning, I ended up in PP court, that initial where they tell you the bond and everything else. I looked up, and the attorney was there. He'd have been a friend since I'd been 16 years old. And I was by video camera. And the judge, he didn't look up. He read my name and stopped. I practiced in front of him for 10 years. He said, "Release from recognizance to the crisis center." Didn't read the charge. Didn't read my full name. I felt low. So I went to a crisis center. Boy, I could tell you stories of that place. From the guy who ate sugar packets without opening them, he ate them. And I had my first real cup of coffee that morning, and he came up behind me all of a sudden here. Tables scattering, people running. I sat there, "I'm not leaving this table." And the guy let go right next to me. I said, "Don't you dare get my coffee." To the other guy, says, "Hey," I was on the phone making a phone call, and he says, "Hey, have you seen the cat?" I said, "What cat?" He said, "The cat that you're..." "Oh, that cat. It went that way." It was something else. To the guy who hadn't talked in 10 years, came up and said, "Hi." I don't know what it was. Anyway, I remember seeing the trees for the first time after 4 days and having a spiritual experience. Wow. And I decided, and my wife decided, hey, it's time to get treatment or get something done. And I went to my doctor and I admitted my problems to him. And he said, go to this place. And I went to this place. And it was another 12-step recovery program. They celebrate a lot of things there. And it was great. And I met a man there named Joe. And I didn't quite understand what it was about, but they talked about 12 steps. I said, okay. Well, I was looking for the stairs. And He talked, and I listened to people tell a story, and they told a story, and they told things, and it was me. And I could identify with what they were saying. I said, wow, maybe there's something here, because I really wanted to stop this stuff. And I couldn't on my own. And Joe did one thing, and another guy actually came to my house the next day and started taking me to AA meetings. God bless him. And I asked him, would you sponsor me? He says, oh, no, I can't. I'm not in this enough, or I'm not good enough. And I'm not. But he eventually introduced me to a man who had heard that first night I was there, but he was running a small little meeting in South Tampa. And he said, you know what? Do you want to get well? I said, yes. He said, what are you willing to do about it? I said, I don't know. What do I got to do? Do you want to get well? What are you willing to do? He says, are you willing to take some instruction? I said, yeah. He said, I'll do whatever it takes, man. Just don't bring out a goat. You know? He says, there's no goats involved. And I was happy about that. And he said, this is what we're going to do. Let me tell you. You know, you're going to go to a lot of meetings, and you're going to hear all sorts of stuff. But let me tell you what I did. My sponsor had this book. And he hated the word sponsor. And he said, I'm going to guide you through the instructions as they were given to me. My sponsor gave this the same way. And we're going to read this book together from the front page through the first 103 pages. And we're going to do it as they did it. And we're going to talk about the things that go on. And you'll find that there's a formula in there that can lead you to a life beyond your wildest dreams. I said, really? Yeah, he says, you know, there's some people out there, they call me a book thumper. And, you know, there are two types of book thumpers, and I'm going to tell you which one I am. There's the type that take this book and they start beating you on the head with it. That's not me. I'm going to read it with you, and we're going to look at it and we're going to say, the solution. It's in here. As he thumped his book. This man reached out his hand to me at a time when I was low, and we met. And he says, we're going to go through this quickly. It's not meant to go through slowly. We're going to do it in 15 hours. They did it faster in the beginning. You meet with me 4 or 5 times, 3 hours at a time, and I'm going to get you to a solution. And we sat down, and he gave his time, not only to me, but to my family. And we read the book, and we followed the instructions. And I wrote a 4th step. It took me a while to do it. And I was like hesitant, and he said, you know what, man? Why are you taking so long? I said, well, I don't know. He says, look. It's kind of like if you tell a kid, go clean your room. Go clean your room, darn it. And they're going to pout, and they're going to stomp, and they're going to delay, and they're going to end up finding a toy and playing over in a corner, you know. But if you tell them this, hey, go clean out your room because we're going to fill it up with some of the best stuff you ever got. As soon as you get that stuff cleared out, we'll get new, beautiful new stuff. They jump on it, and they do it, and they clean it, and they're out. Yes, let's go to the store. And he said, that's what this is, man. Clean that stuff out, and your heart's going to be filled with so much new joy. So I sat down and wrote my 12 names. That's all it was, 12 names on my resentment list. I was still young. I didn't know what selfishness was. I didn't know what that was. I didn't know what it meant, a resentment. And we went through it, and I was still cloudy. And we did it. And I got to about step 10, we were working on 9, and I decided I needed to go out and make amends right then and there, and I went out to one of those people that I tried to fill that blank hole with that I shouldn't have gone to. About 35, 40 days clean, sober. I knew it now. Said, thank you, God, you made me clean. You made me, I can do it now. Well, that night step of men ended up with a nice little drink together and ended up on a 7-day binge. I was gone, never came home. Another arrest warrant out. I had my charges for possession pending, and I was supposed to go to my arraignment. I'd lost 40 pounds. My car was in the toast. My clothes were filthy. I was holed up in this little shack, well, apartment, with somebody and another guy had a knife to my throat, broke, and I was destined to die. I said, I can't do this. It's not going to work. And after all that had happened, I walked into a kitchen one morning, guilt-ridden and self-loathing all over, and reached into a drawer in the kitchen and pulled out a serrated bread knife. Sharp. Really sharp. It was. I said, I'm going to end it. And I started to put it to my wrist to pull it down, and all of a sudden I heard a voice, and that voice came from somewhere and said, you know what? That's going to hurt. It's true. So why don't you try it somewhere else? So I grabbed the knife and put it on the palm of my hand and started to pull, and that voice was right. It hurt. At the same time, my phone rang. I hadn't answered it in 4 days, so I looked at it, and it was a number I didn't recognize, and I answered it. And it said, Toby? Well, actually, I let it go to voicemail. And I listened to the voicemail, and the voice said, hey, you don't know me, but your wife's contacted me, and I have a solution. Then the phone rang again, and it was my attorney saying, hey, you're supposed to be at your arraignment this morning, and you're about an hour late. Are you coming, or do I have the judge put a capias out for you? Meaning an arrest warrant. I said, I'll be there. How long is it going to take you? I'll be there in an hour. He says, you'll be here in half an hour. So I stole a pair of pants out of the guy's closet that was 4 sizes too small, but they fit. Stopped at Walgreens on the way home and bought a Hawaiian shirt made of polyester, and it was bright orange, and I had a pair of flip-flops. Hair ragged, what I had left. And I walked in, got a ride into court, got dropped in. I walked into the judge's courtroom, grinning from ear to ear, filthy and stinking, but I had a new shirt on. And there the prosecutor was a guy who took the bar exam with. The other prosecutor was a woman who was a judge's JA I had known for 10, 15 years. My attorney, who I knew since I was 16, and a judge who I'd practiced in front of for my entire time since 1992. And this was now 2005. And they called my name, and I walked up there. Good morning, Judge. And she looked at me and she said, we've been advised of what you've been doing. I looked at the back of the room, and there was my wife standing in the back, and I hadn't even noticed her. No. She said, you have a choice. You can go, we can revoke your bond, you can go back to jail. Or you can go with this guy. And this guy walked up, and he said, good morning. And I recognized it was that voice on that voicemail that said, we have a solution. I looked at the judge and said, I'm going with him. They walked me out. Oh my goodness, that time's going out. They walked me out, and I ended up in treatment. Thank God. My sponsor came to me there at that treatment center, and I felt relief like nothing had ever, like it was all gone. And my sponsor said, what do you expect you go back out? You hadn't finished the steps. You were still suffering from untreated alcoholism. So we completed the steps. At that time, I realized I'd given everything away. My wife wasn't going away. I was pushing her away. I gave away my practice. I gave away the money in search of something out here. I had a hole in my heart. What I didn't realize was that hole was God-shaped. And I was trying to fill it with a bottle, with a woman, with a food, with whatever. And it just wouldn't fit. I thought then that I'd given it all away and anything I got back would be a gift. And I came clean with my wife. I relapsed in treatment. That's when I came clean about what was going on, and she'd known everything all along. I was relieved. I was suffering my own insecurities that I thought I had hidden, that chink in my armor. But it was only me that was hiding it. I couldn't accept it. And until I accepted myself of being who I was at that time, all the fears, the judgments, everything else, I wasn't going to live free, happy in this life. And I learned from AA what that was. You know, I got my wife, my family back. The court dismissed all the charges. The Florida bar reinstated me. Life is good. And I thought that first thing I got back was the greatest, and that was my family. But I didn't realize until 2 years ago, that was not the first thing I got back. The first thing I got back was that day with that bread knife. The first thing I got back was that voice. And God comes in many different ways, and I think He has a sense of humor. That day, it's going to hurt. The first thing I got back was my desire to live. I had wanted to die. At that point, God restored that spark. That I had something else to do, and life has become beautiful. My whole parameters in life, my whole perspective has changed. It's not about money and prestige. It's about what I can do for you, my fellow man and woman. What role can I play in this life to make life better for all of us? And I found that in AA. By reaching out, and that God that my childhood was not the God of my understanding. He's my friend. He's my companion and my compatriot. He's there with me at all times. All I have to do is seek Him. When I seek, He shows up. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you all for being here, because without this, I would not be alive today. And I mean alive as in living in fulfillment. AA has given me that. It's taught me how to love, and it's taught me how to be a friend. And for you, I thank you. Have a good one.